In the vast stretches of the African savanna, where the sky kisses the earth at the horizon, there lies a village that sings to the rhythm of the ancient drum beats, its heart beating in sync with the natural world. This village, known as Kijani, was nestled beside the meandering Oya River, revered and feared as the dwelling of Mto, the forbidden river spirit. Mto was not just a whisper in the dark, or a tale to scare the children into obedience. She was real as the water that flowed and the fish that swam in its depths. The elders spoke of her with a reverential fear, and their eyes would flicker like the flames of their fires when they recounted the stories. Tales of a spirit so powerful, her moods could dictate the flow of the river itself. In Kijani, there lived a young woman named Nia. Nia was known for her fierce independence and her curiosity as boundless as the plains themselves. Her skin mirrored the rich earth, and her eyes, the deep green of the dense forests at the edge of the village. Nia had grown up listening to the stories of Mto, but unlike others, she harbored a deep longing to understand the spirit, not to fear her. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Nia stood by the banks of the Oya River. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and the chirping of crickets. As she watched the waters ripple and dance with the light, a voice as soft as the breeze whispered her name. Nia! Startled, she looked around, but there was no one in sight. The voice came again, a gentle melodic tone that seemed to flow with the water. Nia, come closer. Against the warnings of her elders, Nia stepped closer to the water's edge, her heart pounding in her chest like the drums of her ancestors. The river, under the last light of the day, seemed to glow with an ethereal light. Why do you call me? Nia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I have watched you, child of Kijani, the voice replied, now clear and resonant. You seek understanding, not conquest. You wish to know, not to fear. Yes, Nia admitted, her curiosity piqued. I want to understand you, Mumto. Why are you forbidden? Why do you remain a mystery to us? The river bubbled and frothed as if chuckling. Many years ago I was not forbidden. People respected and honored me, but they did not fear me. But as time passed, greed and disrespect poisoned their hearts. They took more than they needed. They polluted my waters. In their arrogance, they tried to control me. So I withdrew my blessings and became what I needed to be, feared, so that I might be respected once more. Nia nodded, understanding the sad truth in Munto's words. What can I do to change this? How can we heal the bond between Kijani and you? That is a journey you must undertake, Nia, but be warned, it will not be without risk. You will face challenges that may trap you by the very nature of what I am. I am ready, Nia said, the determination in her voice as firm as the ground beneath her feet. Then come to me at dawn, Mto instructed. Come alone and bring nothing but your courage. As the night crept upon the village, Nia walked back to her hut, her mind racing with thoughts of the morning to come. She knew the risks, she understood the fear that gripped her people, but within her burned a fire to bridge the gap between the human and the spiritual, to restore balance where discord had reigned. That night, as the village of Kijani fell into a deep slumber, Nia lay awake, staring at the thatched roof above her. The sounds of the night seemed different now, filled with the promise of a profound journey. The river's whispers lulled her into dreams, dreams of water, spirits, and a forbidden understanding waiting to be discovered at the break of dawn. As the first whispers of dawn painted the sky with strokes of pink and orange, Nia approached the riverbank. The air was crisp, filled with the sounds of waking birds and the distant roar of the Oya River cascading over rocks. Her heart thrummed with anticipation and a thread of fear, yet her steps were resolute. She reached the spot where the voice had beckoned her the evening before. The river seemed alive, aware of her presence, its waters swirling in patterns that danced between light and shadow. Welcome, Nia, the voice of Mto emerged from the flowing waters, smooth and enveloping as a velvet night. You have come, bearing only your courage, as I asked. I am here to understand, to learn how we may live in respect and harmony, Nia replied, her voice steady though her spirit trembled. To begin, you must listen, not to the tales of old, nor the warnings whispered in fear, but to the river itself. Watch its flow, understand its paths, and the life it carries within. Nia knelt by the water's edge, her gaze fixed on the liquid ribbons that curved and twisted before her. She saw how the river nurtured the land, giving life to the plants and animals that depended on it. She observed how it moved, free yet guided by its banks, which contained its vast energy. Mto, I see your strength and your generosity, Naya spoke, her eyes reflecting the shimmering water. But how can we, the people of Kijani, restore what has been broken? How do we return to a time when respect was the bridge between us? Respect is not merely in the giving, but also in the receiving. To heal, Kijani must learn to receive the gifts of the river without greed, to take only what is needed and to give back in gratitude. Minto's voice flowed with the wisdom of the ages. Nia pondered these words, understanding that the balance of giving and taking was delicate, like the dance of the sun and moon. She thought of the farmers taking water for their crops, the children splashing in the shallows, and the women filling their clay pots. Teach us then, Nia asked. I will share your wisdom with my people. Help us learn to celebrate the life you offer without binding it to our needs alone. The task will challenge you, Nia. It requires change not only of action but of heart. Start with the young, for they will inherit the river. Teach them the songs of the water. Let them learn its rhythms and the stories of its depths. Nia nodded, her resolve deepening. I will teach them, and I will learn alongside them. We will honor the spirit of the river, not as a force to fear, but as a sacred presence to cherish. You must also understand the signs of the river, Mento continued. When it swells, it speaks of abundance. When it recedes, a call for conservation. Heed these signs as they guide you to balance. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light over the land, Nia stood. She felt a new connection to the river, a bond that went beyond fear and entered into reverence. She was ready to act, to lead her people in restoring the ancient respect that once flowed between them and the river. With a heart full of purpose, Nia turned back toward Kijani. The task ahead was immense, but she carried with her the spirit of the river, a guide that would lead through her teachings. As the village woke to the new day, she was ready to weave a new tapestry of understanding, one that would honor both the needs of her people and the sacred life of the river. Morning light bathed Kijani in warmth as Nia returned to the heart of the village. The rhythms of daily life resumed with the rise of the sun. Children played near the huts, women prepared the morning meal, and the men gathered to discuss the day's work. Naya's presence, however, infused the ordinary with a sense of expectation. With the spirit of Mumto's wisdom echoing in her thoughts, Nia approached the elders seated under the ancient baobab tree. Their faces, lined with the stories of countless suns and moons, turned towards her with an air of curiosity. Elders of Kijani, I have communed with Mumto, the spirit of our river. Nia began, her voice carrying the strength of the river's flow. She has shared with me visions of harmony and respect, teachings that we must embrace to heal the rift between our hearts and the lifeblood of our land. The elders exchanged glances, their skepticism a palpable veil. Yet in Nia's eyes, they saw a reflection of the river's depths, a seriousness they could not easily dismiss. You speak of visions, Nia, the eldest among them, Mzee Jomo responded. Yet visions do not fill our pots or irrigate our fields. How do you propose we translate these whispers of the river into the sustenance of our village? Minto teaches us to observe and respond, to understand the language of the river. She speaks in the swell and ebb, guiding us when to draw water and when to conserve. Nia explained, her words like seeds seeking fertile soil in the minds of her listeners. To start, let us teach our children the songs of the river. Let them learn to listen to its flow. We must cultivate respect from this tender age, fostering a bond that transcends need and nurtures gratitude. A murmur of assent rippled among some of the elders, while others remained dubious. Nia's resolve did not waver. She knew the path would be fraught with challenges. She continued, I propose that today we gather the children by the riverbank. Let us show them how to observe the river, to see more than just water, but a source of life that asks for respect in return for its generosity. This approach, centered on education and engagement, slowly turned the tide of opinion among the elders. The wisdom of starting with the young, who were yet unburdened by the cynicism of years, began to resonate. We will see, Mzee Jomo finally conceded, the others nodding in cautious agreement. Lead the children today, Nia. Show us this new way that may bridge the gap between the old fears and a new reverence. Grateful for the opportunity, Nia wasted no time. Gathering the children, she led them to the riverbank, their young eyes wide with curiosity. She spoke to them of Mito, not as a distant and fearsome spirit, but as a member of their community whose health reflected their own. They watched the river together, noting how the water levels were lower than they had been weeks before. Nia explained the signs of the river's swell and ebb, teaching the children how to tell when the river was speaking of abundance and when it whispered of scarcity. The children listened, enraptured by the idea of a talking river, their imaginations kindling with respect for the natural world. As they learned, so too did the adults who had accompanied them, their skepticism softening into a tentative hope. With each lesson by the riverbank, Kijani began to weave a new tapestry of understanding, each thread a lesson of balance and respect, each color a step closer to healing the bond with the life-giving waters of the Oya River. Nia watched as her village slowly embraced a new way of being, one that promised to restore not only the river, but the soul of Kijani itself. As the days unfurled under the vast African sky, the village of Kijani witnessed a subtle transformation. The teachings by the riverbank had ignited a spark among the people, a renewed relationship with the Oya River that flowed with the promise of a rekindled respect. The river's presence became a constant in the villagers' daily conversations, its rhythms a guide to their routines. Nia, whose heart was as deep and mysterious as the river itself, found her days filled with purpose. She organized gatherings inviting not just the children, but entire families to listen to the river's flow, to observe its nuances, and to learn from its silent wisdom. One morning, as a gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, Nia brought the villagers to a bend in the river where the water turned sharply, creating a natural gathering place. Here, the river seemed to speak more clearly, its currents swirling with energy and life. "Look at how the river curves," Nia instructed, pointing to the flowing water. "The bend slows the water down, allowing it to nourish the land more deeply. It teaches us about patience, about the strength in gentleness." Mzee Jomo, who had grown more receptive to Nia's teachings, watched the water's movement closely. "The river does not rush to overcome its obstacles. It embraces them, turns them into part of its dance. Perhaps there is wisdom here for us too." The villagers nodded, their eyes reflecting a growing understanding. They discussed how they might emulate the river, how patience and respect could be part of their farming, their fishing, and their daily living. Nia introduced the practice of silent observation, where each person would spend time alone by the river, simply watching and listening. These moments of solitude by the water became sacred, a time for each villager to connect personally with Minto's spirit. During one such session, a young boy named Kofi, who had become particularly attuned to the river's moods, noticed something troubling. He rushed to find Nia, his young face etched with concern. "The river, it speaks of sadness today," Kofi reported, his small hands gesturing urgently. "The water, it flows slower, and there is less of it. The fish too, they do not come as they used to." Nia followed Kofi back to his observation spot, her brow furrowed in thought. She saw that he was right. The river's vigor was diminished, its vitality ebbing like the waning moon. This change spurred Nia to think deeper about the village's practices and their impact on the river. Gathering the villagers once more, she shared Kofi's observations. "The river is speaking to us, telling us it is in distress. We must listen and adjust our actions. It's time we consider how we use the river's resources, how we might give back to it as much as we take." This message resonated deeply with the villagers. Motivated by the tangible changes they observed and spurred by the wisdom Nia had instilled, they began to implement new practices. They created schedules to regulate fishing and irrigation, ensuring they did not overburden the river. The children planted trees along the banks to prevent erosion and to offer shade to the waters below, naturally cooling the river and aiding its recovery. As the community's habits evolved, so did their connection to the river. What began as lessons turned into a communal embrace of a way of life that celebrated and preserved the natural world. Each step forward was marked by the community's collective effort to harmonize their needs with the rhythms of the river, ensuring that they not only took from the water, but also gave back, fostering a cycle of sustainability that promised to rejuvenate the very essence of Kijani. Night had draped itself over Kijani, and the moon, a silver orb in the sky, cast a gentle glow upon the Oya River. The riverbanks, where the villagers had planted new trees, were bathed in a soft light, the leaves whispering secrets to the night wind. Under this celestial canopy, Nia organized a nocturnal gathering, a time to celebrate the river and share the lessons learned from its waters. As the villagers assembled by the softly flowing river, a fire was kindled, its flames flickering like the dancing spirits of the water. Nia stood beside the fire, her face illuminated by its glow, her eyes reflecting the deep knowledge she had gained from Monto. Tonight, under the watch of the moon and stars, we come together not just as people of Kijani, but as children of the Oya River. Nia began, her voice resonant with the power of the flowing water. We have seen changes, felt the river's response to our care. It is a testament to what we can achieve when we listen and adapt. Elders and youngsters alike sat encircled around the fire, their faces lit by the soft flames, all eyes fixed on Nia. The air was filled with the scent of earth and water, a reminder of the life force that flowed beside them. Mzijomo stood up, his stature commanding yet gentle. Nia has shown us a new path, one that connects us deeper to the life spring of our village. We have learned to observe, to respect, and to cherish. It is a path that we must continue to walk, together. Nodding in agreement, the others murmured their assent, the sound mingling with the rustling of the leaves and the soft lapping of the river water. Nia then introduced a new ritual, one that would mark their commitment to the river. Each villager was invited to place a stone into the river, each stone representing a promise to protect and preserve the water that sustained them. One by one they stepped forward, each placing a stone gently into the river. The splashes were small, but each carried weight, a symbol of individual and collective pledges to maintain the harmony between Kijani and the Oya River. As the ritual concluded, the youngest of the village, a small girl named Amma, began to sing. Her voice was clear and pure, a melody that seemed to rise from the river itself. The song was a tribute to Memto, a melody of gratitude and promise. The others joined in, their voices uniting in a chorus that filled the night, a sound as natural as the river's flow. The music carried across the waters, drifting into the night, an offering of peace and respect to the spirit of the river. As the singing faded, the sound of drumming took its place. The rhythm matched the heartbeat of the earth, a primal music that resonated with the spirit of all who listened. This night of celebration deepened the villagers' connection to the river, each beat of the drum and each note sung reinforcing the bonds they had forged. The gathering was not just an event, but a manifestation of their renewed relationship with the river, a relationship built on mutual respect and a shared desire to live in harmony with nature. As the fire dwindled and the moon continued its silent vigil, the villagers returned to their homes, carrying with them the night's teachings and the comforting knowledge that their river, the lifeblood of Kijani, was once again thriving under their care. The Oya River, once a source of fear and mystery, had become a beloved guardian, its well-being inextricably linked to the health and prosperity of the village. The lessons of the river, taught by Nia and embraced by all, wove a new fabric of community, an enduring testament to the power of understanding and respect. Months had passed since the village of Kijani began its deep communion with the Oya River, and the landscape bore the fruits of this new symbiosis. Fields were lush and more fertile, fish were abundant in the river, and the villagers' hearts were light, their spirits buoyed by the health of their environment. As the season of harvest approached, Naya proposed a festival to honor the river, a celebration of thanksgiving and cultural revival. Preparations began under the warm glow of the sun as the villagers gathered to plan the Festival of the Waters. This event was to be a culmination of all the lessons learned and a showcase of the village's renewed bond with the river. Men, women, and children all lent their hands and hearts, weaving decorations from river reeds, painting fabrics with dyes made from the local flora, and rehearsing songs and dances that told the story of their relationship with Mento. On the eve of the festival, the air was electric with anticipation. Lanterns hung from the trees, casting a soft light over the village, and the riverbanks were transformed into a vibrant stage for the night's festivities. As dusk settled over Kijani, the festival began with the beating of drums, deep and resonant, calling all to join in the celebration. Nia, adorned in a robe painted with symbols of the river and its wildlife, led the opening ceremony. She stood by the river's edge, a calabash bowl in her hands, filled with river water. "We gather here today to honor Mto and the life-giving waters of the Oya River," Nia announced, her voice carrying over the crowd. "This water sustains us, enriches our soil, and quenches our thirst. Tonight, we give thanks and celebrate the bounty it has provided." She poured the water back into the river, a symbolic gesture of gratitude and renewal. The crowd cheered, their voices a harmonious blend with the natural sounds around them. Following the opening rites, a procession of dancers emerged, their bodies moving in rhythm to the music, mimicking the flow of the river. Their dance told the tale of Kijani's journey from fear to understanding, from exploitation to stewardship. The feast that followed was a lavish spread of dishes made from the bounty of the river and the harvest of the fields. Fish, caught in sustainable numbers, were grilled over open fires, seasoned with herbs from the village gardens. Fruits and vegetables, fresh and bursting with flavor, were shared freely among the attendees. As the night progressed, elders told stories of the old days, of times when the river was feared, and their voices carried the weight of those memories. But their tales transitioned into stories of change, highlighting the role Nia played in transforming their fears into a profound respect for nature. Youngsters performed plays they had written themselves, enacting scenes of their daily interactions with the river, often infused with humor and poignant lessons. These performances not only entertained, but also educated, reinforcing the cultural shift towards environmental consciousness. The Festival of the Waters became not just a night of joy and revelry, but a profound communal expression of the villagers' spiritual and physical connection to their environment. The event was etched in the hearts of all as a luminous point in their annual cycle, a time to reflect on the past and look forward to a future of continued harmony with the river. As the festival drew to a close, the villagers gathered for one final act, a circle around the dying embers of the bonfire, under the starlit sky, each person silent, listening to the soothing sounds of the Oya River flowing nearby. This moment of collective contemplation cemented their commitments to continue living in balance with the natural world, a commitment that promised to guard their prosperity and the health of the river for generations to come. As the new dawn broke over Kijani following the Festival of the Waters, the village awoke to a serene calm, a palpable peace that seemed to flow from the very heart of the Oya River. This day marked not just another morning, but the beginning of a new cycle of stewardship and respect for the natural world that enveloped the village. The impact of the festival lingered in the air, infusing the daily routines of the villagers with a renewed sense of purpose. Children skipped along to the riverbank, their laughter mingling with the songs of the birds overhead, eager to see if the river had any new lessons to whisper to them. Naya, who had become a guardian of the river's law, spent her mornings walking along the river, inspecting the new plantings and the health of the water. With a careful eye, she noted the growth of the saplings along the banks, a living testament to the village's commitment to the river's well-being. Mid-morning, she gathered a group of children for a special task. Together, they waded into the shallows to relocate a clutch of turtle eggs to safer ground, teaching the children about the delicate balance of life that the river sustained. Every creature, no matter how small, plays a role in the health of our river, Nia explained as they carefully dug a new nest in a protected area. By helping these turtles, we ensure that the river remains a vibrant ecosystem full of life and vitality. As the day progressed, a group of elders, inspired by the festival's stories, decided to revive an old tradition long forgotten, a craft of weaving baskets from the reeds that grew plentiful along the riverbanks. The reeds, harvested responsibly, were soaked and then woven into intricate patterns, each design a story of the river and its many moods. Mzee Jomo led the initiative, teaching the younger men and women the techniques passed down through generations. These baskets are more than just tools. They are a celebration of our craftsmanship and our connection to the river that provides these materials, he said, his hands deftly moving over the reeds. The afternoon brought traders from nearby villages who came bearing news and goods to exchange. They were met with the vibrant scene of Kijani, in full harmony with its surroundings. The traders were not just curious about the products like the intricately woven baskets, but were also drawn to the palpable change in the village's ethos. "We hear of Kijani's transformation, how you live in tune with the river," one trader remarked, his eyes scanning the bustling activity along the riverbank. "Yes, it has changed us," replied Nia, who had joined the elders to welcome the traders. "We have learned that by listening to the river, respecting its needs and rhythms, we not only sustain it, but it sustains us more abundantly and kindly." Inspired by the success of Kijani, some traders expressed interest in learning these practices. Naya and the elders agreed to host a gathering in the coming weeks, where they would share their knowledge of sustainable living with others. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues over the village. The river reflected the vibrant colors of the sky, a mirror to the heavens. The villagers, young and old, gathered once again by the river, not for another festival, but for a quiet evening of reflection and fellowship. Songs were sung and stories were shared, each voice adding to the legacy of Kijani's transformation. The river, a silent witness to these changes, flowed on, a constant guide and guardian to the people who had learned to listen to its ancient wisdom. In this way, the days following the festival were filled with the echoes of harmony, a melody that resonated through every heart and soul in Kijani, weaving a stronger community bound by respect for all life. With the rise of a brilliant sun, the village of Kijani stirred to life, each beam of light promising a day of learning and community. The day was marked for the gathering, an event inspired by the recent festival, where Kijani would open its heart and wisdom to neighboring villages. It was a time for sharing the lessons of living in harmony with the river, an opportunity to spread the message of balance and respect further than the borders of their own land. Early in the morning, Nia walked along the riverbank, her thoughts as fluid as the water's surface. She reflected on what she would share, how she would articulate the transformation of her people, how they had moved from fear to reverence, from exploitation to guardianship. The villagers too prepared with a sense of pride. They set up areas for demonstrations and talks, including stations for basket weaving, fishing techniques that ensured sustainability, and the cultivation of riverbank gardens that both fed their families and protected the river's delicate edges. As the guests began to arrive, the air filled with the sounds of greetings and the soft rustle of movement. People from surrounding villages were greeted with warm smiles and an offering of fresh water from the river, a symbolic gesture of the life and abundance it offered. Mzee Jomo stood beside Nia as the crowd gathered. "Today, we are teachers," he said, his voice imbued with a sense of responsibility. "What we have learned must now be sown into the hearts of others, like seeds on fertile ground." The first presentation was led by Nia. She stood by the river, the attendees encircling her, their faces a tapestry of curiosity and anticipation. "Welcome," she began, her voice clear and inviting. "Today we share not just our practices but our philosophy. The river is not a resource to be drained, but a life force to be cherished." She spoke of the initial resistance within her own village, the challenges of changing long-held beliefs and practices. Change is a river of its own, winding and persistent, she explained. It requires patience and nurturing to guide it. Following her talk, the children demonstrated their daily river observation ritual. They explained how they watched the water levels, clarity, and wildlife, understanding the river's health indicators. Their youthful enthusiasm was infectious, and many visitors were visibly moved by their deep connection to nature. The afternoon was dedicated to workshops. One group learned the art of weaving baskets from the elders, while another was taught the new fishing regulations that had revitalized their fish stocks. Every lesson was linked back to the health of the river, the source of their sustenance. As the sun began its descent, transforming the sky into hues of orange and purple, the gathering drew to a natural pause. Guests and villagers alike shared a meal by the riverbank. The food, enriched by the river's bounty and cultivated on its banks, was a testament to the sustainable practices Kijani had embraced. The day concluded with a final circle around a large fire, reminiscent of the village's nightly gatherings. Here, the guests shared their impressions and commitments. Many spoke of returning to their villages with new ideas and a new respect for their natural resources. "We leave inspired," one elder from a neighboring village expressed, his eyes alight with new understanding. "You have shown us that respect for nature is not just a duty, but a privilege." As the guests departed, the stars began to blink into existence above, each one a silent nod to the success of the day. Kijani had not only transformed itself, but had ignited a spark of change beyond its boundaries, spreading the ethos of respect and sustainability to the wider community. Each visitor carried away a part of Kijani's spirit, a seed of change that, with care, would spread the philosophy of harmony with nature across the land. As the season turned and the winds carried the scent of rain, Kijani braced for the coming showers that promised renewal for both land and river. This period of revitalization was crucial, a natural cleanse that the villagers now understood and revered. With the teaching spread during the gathering still fresh, there was a palpable excitement about applying this renewed understanding to enhance their symbiosis with the natural cycles. Early one morning, as the first drops of rain peppered the dry earth, Nia stood by the riverbank, watching the sky darken with rain-heavy clouds. She knew this was an essential time to monitor the river's response to the rains, to ensure that the new plantings and preventative measures against erosion were effective. The children of Kijani, equipped with lessons from the past months, joined her. They wore broad smiles as they splashed through the mud, eager to be part of this vital phase. Together, they checked the young trees and shrubs that lined the bank, making sure they were secure and healthy, a barrier against the soil being washed away. "This rain is the lifeblood of the river," Naya explained to the attentive group, their eyes wide under the protection of their leaf-woven hats. "It replenishes the river and gives us the chance to see the strength of our efforts to protect it." As the rains poured, the village elders convened in the communal hut, discussing the feedback from the visitors at the gathering. They were determined to solidify Kijani as a model of environmental stewardship. Their discussions focused on refining their strategies, from water usage to teaching methods that could be adapted for different seasons and different needs. Meanwhile, the village's craftsmen and craftswomen were not idle. They used the time to create tools and containers that would be used to collect and store rainwater, integrating traditional designs with new knowledge. These would help lessen their direct draw from the river during drier times, a practice that had been newly instated following Nia's guidance. In the heart of the village, under the shelter of the largest baobab, the women of Kijani gathered to weave. Their fingers deftly created intricate patterns on baskets and mats, while they shared stories of past rains and how this season felt different with their heightened connection to the river. Each pattern in their weavings seemed to carry a story of water, an homage to the life it sustained. The rain continued for several days, a nurturing, persistent drumming on the thatched roofs of Kijani. When it finally ceased, the village emerged to a world washed anew. The river was fuller, flowing with vigor, clear and vital. Fish were visible, darting through the water, and the plants along the banks were lush and robust. Naya organized a post-rain walk along the river for all villagers. They noted the changes, saw the benefits of their conservation efforts, and discussed further improvements. The walk became a ritual, a way to connect physically and spiritually with the river's cycle. As the sun returned, casting light on the refreshed landscape, the villagers of Kijani resumed their daily tasks with a reinforced sense of purpose. The children played by the river, now with a deeper understanding and respect. The elders planned future projects, and every villager contributed to the ongoing dialogue about living in harmony with nature. The cycle of rain had brought not just water, but a renewed commitment to the principles that Nia had instilled. As each villager found their rhythm within this cycle, Kijani thrived, a beacon of balance and respect, echoing the vitality of the river that flowed through it. The communal efforts during the rains demonstrated their resilience and adaptability, qualities that promised to carry them through many seasons to come. As the season of renewal ebbed, the village of Kijani found itself at the crest of a profound transformation. The river, once a source of sustenance, had become a symbol of life's interconnectedness, its rhythms a blueprint for the community's thriving existence. This final period of the season brought reflection and foresight, a time to celebrate the achievements and plan for the future. On a clear morning, with the sun casting a golden hue over the landscape, the villagers gathered for a ceremonial event to mark the end of an extraordinary cycle. This day was set aside to honor the river and the abundant blessings it had bestowed upon Kijani. Nia, standing at the forefront of this gathering, looked upon her fellow villagers with pride and hope. "Today, we stand together as custodians of the Oya River, guardians of its legacy," Nia addressed the gathering, her voice resonant and full of emotion. "We have learned to listen to its whispers and roars, and in turn, it has nourished us more than we ever imagined." The elders, once cautious and reserved, now stood by her side, fully supportive of the new path Kijani had carved under Nia's guidance. They each held a calabash filled with river water, symbolizing their individual and collective commitment to the river's preservation. Together, they poured the water back into the river, a ritual of giving thanks and pledging continued respect and protection. This act was more than symbolic. It was a promise, a vow to uphold the principles of sustainability and harmony that had reshaped their lives. The younger children, who had grown up amidst these changes, performed a dance they had choreographed themselves. Their movements mimicked the flow of the river, sometimes gentle and caressing, sometimes powerful and commanding. The dance ended with the children lining up along the riverbank, each placing a stone engraved with their names into the water, signifying their roles as future protectors of the river. Mzee Jomo, who had witnessed the full arc of transformation within the village, stepped forward to speak. "We have seen the fruits of our labor, the rewards of our respect. Let us continue this work, ensure that our children and their children's children inherit a world of abundance and balance." As the day progressed, the villagers engaged in planting more trees along the riverbank, reinforcing the natural barrier and enhancing the habitat for local wildlife. They also introduced floating gardens, platforms on the river that allowed for the cultivation of crops without harming the riverbed. The day concluded with a feast by the riverside, where fish from the river, crops from the land, and fruits from the trees were shared among all. The meal was a testament to the rich bounty that respectful stewardship could yield. As night fell, the village did not retreat into darkness. Instead, it was illuminated by fireflies, their lights mingling with the stars above, mirroring the sparkling reflection on the river's surface. The villagers sat around fires, sharing stories of the past, tales of the present, and dreams for the future. Nia took a moment to walk away from the festivities, standing alone by the river. She watched the water flow, a perpetual journey before her. Her heart was full, knowing she had ignited a flame of change that would burn through generations. In Kijani, the river was more than a body of water. It was a life force, a teacher, and a guide. The legacy of the river, carried forward by Nia and her village, was a testament to the profound bond between humanity and the natural world. It was a legacy of harmony, respect, and an enduring promise to the future, a promise that the song of the river would continue as long as there were those who were willing to listen and learn from its timeless wisdom.